Hello and welcome to episode 56 of the Yes You Coaching podcast. I'm your host, Anna Manning, and today we have an interview with me. I went on the podcast on the Jobs for Women podcast, and I was interviewed by the Jobs for Women founder, the lovely Zoë Haydn Jones. And she asked me about all things confidence, and we chatted away about that little voice in your head, about how you can support your kids with this stuff, about the internal things that everyone's grappling with at work that nobody really talks about the unrecognized role of that internal dialogue and thinking about our self-perception and kind of shaping professional confidence. So we went into it all and we had a great conversation. And so I decided actually this would be a great episode to have on my podcast. So in all its unedited glory, you're going to hear the podcast that I did for the Jobs for Women. So I will leave a link to Jobs for Women in the show notes so you can go and check out what they're doing. They have a free membership. They have a jobs board. They're doing some really good work as well with younger women and supporting younger women around careers and confidence, which is great to see. So, without further ado, we'll get on with the episode.
Hey there, welcome to the Jobs for Women podcast, where we empower and uplift women to succeed and thrive in their professional life whilst looking after their well-being. In this podcast, we'll be discussing the issues and challenges faced by women in the workplace, with particular focus on gender equality. We believe that every woman deserves the opportunity to excel in her career, regardless of her gender. And we're committed to helping women break through the barriers that hold them back. Join us every week as we hear from experts, share stories, and give advice. We've got an incredible community of women who support and encourage each other, and we're so happy that you are here. Let's break down the gender barriers and create a more equitable and inclusive workplace for all. Of the Jobs for Women podcast, I am really excited to welcome this week's guest, Anna Manning. We are talking all things confidence on this week's podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Anna. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I love going on other people's podcasts.
Do you? Yeah, because you've obviously got your own podcast, which I've been listening to. Yeah, it's great. It's so nice, isn't it, that we can come and speak on each other's podcasts and share the love a little bit.
Absolutely. You have to do all the work and I just turn up and chat. It's ideal.
So we are talking about confidence. It's something that I am really keen on. I know in our chat that we just had before we started recording, we talked a little bit about, the importance of confidence. And for me, it's something I've struggled with when I look back on the early years in my career. So I'm really excited to bring it into our platform and have the conversations, and hope that, especially if people are in early stages, if they're in education or early stages of career, but all the way through career, because we know it affects us at all stages. But if we can sort of have these conversations and empower ourselves a bit earlier and help each other. So I'm really excited to have this chat today. Can you tell us a little bit more? Because I know you've done the whole corporate life. How did you get into your coaching? Can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, so my background is I was a lawyer and I always did medical law. So I worked in a law firm and I worked in the NHS, but the kind of common theme throughout, and I guess since I was a kid, was that I was always like really into self-help. I always say I was like the sad kid who would get the self-help book from the jumble cell and like hide it, not show anyone that I was reading it. And that kind of continued. And when I first became a manager in the NHS, I was managing a team of people who A, were all more experienced than me in that place, and B, were all older than me. And I was like, I was sort of panicking a bit because I was thinking, what's this going to be like? And I at that moment, I guess my confidence felt quite shaky. So I went and listened to some podcasts and, started looking around. What can I do? How can I make things feel a bit better? And I found this podcast that was called Coaching for Leaders. And I was like, oh, coaching. I didn't know that was a thing. Anyway, like I do with everything, I got like knee deep in it. And then I had to tell my
I got into it and I was like listening and I was really interested. And then a few years later, I was doing a completely different job. And I had to tell my boss whether or not I was going to continue this secondment I was doing in this completely different role or go back and do my old role. And I had no idea what I was going to do. My friend James had happened to invite me to this this like coaching day. And I was like, oh, I'll go along to that. That sounds interesting. And it turned out to be like a thing for people who wanted to train as coaches. And the guy coached me in front of 40 people. And he said, does anyone need any help with anything? I was like, yeah, me. I was like, I've got to go to work tomorrow and tell my boss, like, do I carry on in this secondment or do I go back to my old job? And I have no clue what I was going to do. And he was like, okay, sit down. And 15 minutes later, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And I also thought, you know what? I'm going to ask them to pay for a coaching course for me because they want to keep me, right? They don't want me to go back to my old job. And it worked. And I said, I'll stay. And can you pay for this, course? Because I want to develop. And they were like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. So that was how I ended up being a coach.
Oh my God, that's like the best story ever. What happened after that? Did you go back into the role?
No. So I stayed in the secondment role and I started training to become a coach. And I did that alongside my job since 2008. I qualified in 2018. But I set up a coaching program at work because they'd paid for it. So I wanted to I wanted to give something back. And also it was a great place for me to practice. There was, hundreds of people and people, would see me by the water cooler and be like side-eyeing me and be like, I've heard that you're doing coaching. Would you be able to help me? I'd be like, yeah, sure. So I started coaching at work. And then a few other coaches kind of came in. There were other people in the organization that could do it too. So we set up this program and that was all happening. And then it got to the stage where my boss was saying, what's next for you? That kind of yearly conversation that you have where they were really good at my organization. They were like, what's next? Where do you want to go? Like, what should we be thinking about? And I just was really honest with him. And I said, there's nothing else that I really want to do. I know this is what I should be going to do now. And it has to be next for me. And at that time, I was still terrified. I didn't have the confidence to leave my job. And my boss said, well, you know what you have to do then? You have to leave and you've got to do it. And he said, tell me what we can do to help you.
Wow.
Yeah. So a few months later, I finally plucked up the courage, handed in my notice. And I've been in business full time for 1 year.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
As of yesterday.
Yay, congratulations.
Yeah.
So just jumping back, when he got you on stage and coached you,
yes.
Did you have any light bulb moments? Did you
yes.
have? So what were they? What did he do to help you make that decision?
He did what we do in coaching, which is ask people questions and get their brain to go in a direction that it might not have gone in, like open out thinking. So he was trying to ascertain from me, now I look back on it, like what's really important to this woman about work, what makes it meaningful. And I was saying growth and learning, like that's what I love and that's what's really important. And he kind of then ascertained, helped me to work out actually in my old role there probably wasn't going to be very much of that, but in the new role, even though I didn't know what it was going to look like and it felt a bit uncertain, there was going to be loads of it. And so he helped me to think, what is actually my priority? What makes work meaningful or important for me? And once I could actually see that really clearly, it did become a bit of a no-brainer.
I think that's fascinating because it's more like, when you're just in the zone on the treadmill and you sort of got your head down, almost tunnel vision. It's like you can't be open. It's sometimes right in front of you, isn't it? But I guess with a coach, it's having that extra voice or that guidance to just make you sort of open up a little bit and the answer is often there.
Yeah. And they will dig and keep digging. So you can't, there's no getting away from it. Like once you're in and you've said I want you to help me with this, then they will go in a nice way.
Okay, so that's, well done, year anniversary, that's brilliant.
Thanks.
And I know we talked just before we started recording, we talked a lot, obviously you're on the Jobs for Women podcast, we're all about women. We talked about that, a lot of your clients are women, but obviously men suffer with confidence issues or lack of confidence. What have you, when you're working with clients, what's the main reason that a woman would come and work with you?
Yeah. So most of the time it's something along the lines of, I'm good at my job. I know logically that I'm good at my job. I know logically that I know what I'm doing, but I don't feel as confident as I think I could or I should. And I don't really know why. It's some take on that almost every time.
That's really interesting. Do you think that we set a standard for ourselves that we should be at a certain level of confidence?
Well, that's a really interesting question, actually. I hadn't really thought of it like that. Yeah, maybe we do. Maybe we do, because people often think, and I often coach with people who are more senior, right?
Mhm.
And I think possibly people sometimes think, well, that'll automatically come along with this promotion that I've just gained. I'll just be confident enough to do it. And then they get there, and of course, they still have the same brain as they did before they took the new job. They still have the same fears inside. They still have the same kind of the sort of drama, I call it, that goes on inside all of us. That's still there.
Mm.
Whatever level you're at, if you haven't worked out how to manage it, what to do about it. And yeah, we were just saying this before as well. Nobody generally teaches people how to do that. So it doesn't matter how senior you get. And I coach some people who are extremely senior. Everyone has some of the, some of the drama.
Yeah. And I listened to one of your podcasts, a great episode, and you talk about how we get more senior and the internal dialogue, like you say, carries on, and we get less and less feedback. Because I was thinking about this. I think I'm a feedback person. I kind of need to know, oh yeah, you're doing a good job. But the more senior you get, you're leading the team and you're giving other people that feedback. But if you're not getting any, if you're a person that relies on that, I suppose that can hugely affect your confidence. Is that right?
How's that working out for you when you run your own business?
Oh,
you're the boss.
This is why it is so fascinating, isn't it? Because I'll say to my husband, I'll be like, head down. And then every now and again, I'm like, can I ask you something? And he's so busy with his job. And I'll see him sort of look up, because we both work from home, but he's here, there and everywhere. And I'll need to like share things with him, share bits of what I'm up to or what I'm about to launch or ideas I've had to bounce ideas off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has been a challenge. It has been really challenging. And that's why I can relate to everything that you're talking about. I know that on that podcast as well, I can't remember which episode it was, but I'll put it in the show notes. You talk about, if we're self-critical or if we have self-doubt, if we worry about how we're perceived and judged. I really want to get into that a little bit more on this podcast because I've got 2 children, and my little boy particularly will often say he's grown his hair and he's got a little band like a footballer. And he'll be like, will people think I look stupid? Will people say that's for a girl? What will people think? And I'm really trying to sort of say, but it doesn't matter about what they think. It's about what you do, how you feel. So does that come up a lot in your coaching? This idea that, well, what if people think I'm not a great manager or not good at the promotion?
Yeah, because how old is your
He's
son?
8.
Right. So he's 8. So he is just saying the thing, right? He's saying the thing that he's thinking. He's saying the fear that he has. Like, if I go out there, people might say I'm stupid. They might laugh at me. They might reject me, whatever. He's coming out with it. But what happens when we get a little bit older is we still have those same fears and insecurities, because they're pretty basic for all humans, but we don't come out with it anymore. So we go inside with it, and we just end up with this like buzz of drama and like, what will they think? Are they going to think in a meeting? Think about it. How many times do I coach someone and they say, do you know, I really wanted to say something in that meeting, but then I heard this voice in my head say, you're going to sound stupid. So they don't say anything. Do you think that person is saying, you know what, I had an idea to share today, and then the voice in my head said, you're going to sound stupid? Then no one's saying it, but they are experiencing it.
Yeah, I've been there before. I've been there so many times. I remember as well, when I was listening to your podcast and thinking about like the early stages, I did 10 years in London, worked in PR, worked for like film companies. I used to sit at those massive boardroom tables and be like, I was an intern, and some interns were more confident, and I didn't know whether I just had all this internal dialogue going on. And now when I think back, I'm like, why didn't I just say what I wanted to say, but it was real. Those feelings were real in that boardroom. So how do you coach your clients to work around it or work with it, or is there a solution, or is it a lot of internal work?
I mean, there is a solution, and the solution is some internal work, right? But typically, like I was saying at the beginning, when people come and they say, oh, I'm not as confident as I want to be, there's all this stuff that they want to do and I want to be more confident, I will help them to look at, okay, what is currently happening that's getting in your way? Because this is an internal issue, right? It's an inside job. And because I've been confidence coaching since 2018, I started to see the same habits and behaviors and patterns present, whether somebody was less confident or more confident. And at the beginning of coaching someone, they'd be less confident, at the end they'd be more. And I could see like the same patterns and habits are happening. This is not like an individualized thing. This was like, obviously we're all beautiful and unique, but it turns out that when it comes to confidence building, not that beautiful and unique. Our brains are kind of working in the same way. So I started writing that down, and I could then take a client through, like, are any of these things happening for you? The things that I would typically see when someone wasn't as confident as they wanted to be. So I'd be checking with them. What does that internal dialogue sound like in your head at work? Is it critical? Is it judgy? Does it like give you a hard time? Do you experience self-doubt? Like, are you doubting your skills and your capabilities all the time? Are you in situations where you feel like you're having to fake it instead of just being yourself? Are you demanding really high standards of yourself? Are you comparing yourself to other people? Are you giving yourself a lot of praise and acknowledgement, or are you kind of glossing over all the good stuff you do and just focusing on the negatives? And people will be like, yeah, I'm doing all that. And I'll say, well, then I think we've got to the bottom of why your confidence isn't quite as good as it could be.
Wow. And then what? And so then how do they build that back up? If they are not praising themselves for when things go right and focusing on the negatives, what is the process?
Yeah. So the first step in the process is to like actually recognize that all that is happening. So most of the time, like, let's say we worked in a team where it was really critical, it was really judgy, people were comparing us to others all the time, like playing us off against each other. The standards were really high and we didn't get any acknowledgement. We would really easily see that that would have a bad impact on confidence. Like, you know, it would. And people listening have probably been in, I hope you're not in that situation now, but some people might be, and they might have been in it. It's so obvious to see that that would really impact your confidence if you work somewhere like that. But what people don't recognize is if they identify with that stuff that we just shared around being judgy, being critical, having high standards, not acknowledging yourself, you are working in that environment, but the environment's on the inside. So I have to get somebody to see, what is my inside environment like? And is my inside environment a place where somebody would feel confident and would be able to build their confidence? And most of the time, because people have come to work with me, the answer is like a big fat no. It's like, this environment that I've created on the inside unknowingly is terrible, and it's actually eroding my confidence. So first step, I have to get someone to like really see it. What is that internal environment like? And is it conducive to confidence building? Once you really see that the answer is no, you start to see it in your daily life. Okay, I'm telling myself that I'm stupid before I answer a question. Would somebody feel confident if their boss was doing that? No. Okay, so what do we have to look at? How do I speak to myself? What are my rules going to be? How do I need to relate to myself? And just really help them build a clear picture. Like, number 2 is, what environment would I have to work in order to be at my most confident? And it's never going to be perfect. Like, I'm always going to be scared if I'm doing new things. I just accept that. But they'll tell me, okay, I need an environment where I'm spoken to with respect. I need an environment where if I make a mistake, we can learn from it and draw a line, but I don't get beaten up for weeks. I don't want to be compared to other people. I'd like to get feedback for the good stuff that I do. I'd like that to be recognized. I need quite a bit of encouragement. So I help someone, like, let's build your ideal environment that you would feel like you're most confident in. And once we've built that, we help them to create that on the inside.
I love that. That is amazing, because as you were listing all those things, I was thinking, I want that too. That sounds like a great place to work. Positive feedback. Don't want to be compared, because all of those, it's all those fears and thoughts, that internal dialogue is so real, isn't it? Like, we don't want to be compared. We want to be, you know, rewarded or acknowledged for when we do good. But let's be honest, the workplace, well, some workplaces are like that, but often we're just not going to get that. So I love that the work starts, it's almost like creating that within, because how we talk to ourselves is just so important, isn't it? And this is what I'm doing, going back to the kids situation as well. You know, the more that we can share that from a younger age. And we were again talking off camera about, you know, what we're doing at Jobs for Women, going out and offering our platform to younger women, so that, you know, at that early stage of your career, if you can master all of this, or just be aware of how you are speaking to yourself, I mean, the effect could be huge, couldn't it? I mean, I could have done with your coaching years ago.
So could I. That's why I'm doing it.
So have you got any, I mean, obviously it's all confidential, but have you got any like success stories? I know you said you worked with really senior women. How do you change their working life, personal life? What's the effect after the coaching?
What typically happens is that people go from feeling more stressed, more anxious, and with more kind of internal like noise and drama going on. And also typically feeling a bit more frustrated, because they think, well, I should have said that, I should have done that, you know. So it typically doesn't feel great. And these are people that they like their jobs, they care about the work that they do. And where they move to is they're feeling less stressed, typically less anxious. They're more able to switch off when in the evening or when they go on holiday. They're more supportive of themselves. So even if they have a really bad day or something goes wrong, they're not going to be endlessly beating themselves up about it. They'll be able to spot, oh, okay, I'm doing that. I'm not going to do that. I don't work like that anymore. And what that enables people to do is just keep on doing the work that they're doing, because it's hard. And especially when, you know, it's hard at all stages of your career, but if you're very senior, it's a difficult place to be. And people talk about, oh, like workplace well-being, and we're all going to be resilient, but who actually knows how to do that? The way you be resilient is you stop treating yourself like, I don't know if you're allowed to swear on this podcast, you stop treating yourself really badly. And then even when stuff does go wrong or it's a hard day, you bounce back from it so much quicker.
Oh, that just makes total sense. It's almost like it's like a whole body approach. It's not just confidence here in this little pocket. It's like what really struck with me then is like going on holiday. If you're constantly got that internal dialogue, and you're sort of not looking after how you're thinking about yourself and beating yourself up because you didn't speak up or you didn't manage something, then if that's going to affect your holiday and your downtime, then that's going to affect your whole body, your health, isn't it? Yeah. So what an important piece of work to do. We all need this, don't we?
Well, I certainly did. Yeah, I can't speak for everyone, but I think it probably just is. It's general kind of mind management for the workplace, which probably, yes, all of us do need to know how to do that. But like we were saying just before we got on the podcast, like who gets taught this stuff? I always say to clients, like, did anybody sit you down when you were a kid and say, look, you're going to hear this voice in your mind, and sometimes it's going to be really rude and really mean and loud. Don't believe everything that it says, and here's how you deal with it. Did anyone get that?
No, did we, Hal? So we didn't get any of that. That's such a great soundbite. I'm going to basically tell my kids that tonight, because that voice starts pretty early. Let's be real.
Well, your kid's 8, right? And it's already happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you imagine? I mean, it's a whole other podcast, but you know, like when you look at like the curriculum and what they're learning, can you imagine if they added that in? It's like, how could we help the next generation?
Massively, and I think they do a bit better at that now with some of the stuff. I'm a school governor in a primary school, so I see some of the stuff they do, and I think actually that, you know, they're a bit more switched on than they were when we were kids. And I'm guessing our parents' generation didn't tell us because they just didn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. And when you think about it, everyone's walking around pretending that this stuff isn't happening.
Yes.
So it creates this culture of silence, and it's like, nothing to see here. We're all just shiny and confident and perfect. Well, of course we're not.
So you do one-to-one coaching? Do any organizations get you in to do this? Because this is a no-brainer. Hello.
Yeah, they do.
Let's get you in and do like, so would they do like a group, like a department, I guess?
Yeah. It kind of depends. I think I'm doing one now where, so before this work's been more individual based, and then I've done like some small groups. And actually it was a really senior, she's a lawyer, really senior lawyer who came to one of those small groups, and she was like, everybody needs to know about this. I need all of my juniors to know about this. Sort it out. And they were like, right, okay. So they're going to do like a scaled version of this where we do all the teaching and kind of get them in and they'll have group coaching calls. They'll have like teaching on all of these aspects that we touched on to just like build that foundation.
That sounds
earlier
brilliant.
in people's career. Yeah, it's going to be good.
And I know we've got to wrap up soon, like when you think back to your corporate days, do you recognize now with this amazing work that you're doing that you lacked confidence?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one, because I was a bit of I think and I still lack confidence in some areas now. I think I'm always learning. But what I realized was that I was the kind of person, and my clients are the kind of people, you might be the same, where even if you weren't confident, you said yes.
Yeah.
You did the thing anyway, but that came with a hell of a lot of drama on the inside.
That's so fascinating that you said that, because my husband and I talked about this the other day. Like if he's doing a presentation, and we're both quite similar, we'll say, yes, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. But inside you're like, I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
Why do we do that?
Well,
are we people pleasers?
I mean, do you actually want to do it or not?
Well, often no.
Oh.
I'll kind of, like when I think back to like corporate days, and I spoke to a friend actually recently who did the same, you know, like want to have a good performance review, so need to do the extra curricular things or the extra presentation or things like that, where maybe it's what we think we should be doing. It's an interesting whole subject matter, isn't it, about, you know, and again it comes back to this knowing yourself, internal dialogue, and knowing what's I guess going to work for you, like not always saying yes to everything.
Yeah, I coach on that quite a lot, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, it's not unusual. I think it's something that comes up over and over again. And people would say that in our culture, women are socialized to be agreeable, to say yes, I will help you with that. Yes, I will do that. And actually, that is part of the wider picture of our conditioning. So there's that to think about. Don't be too hard on yourself, because it may be that conditioning is strong. It probably is in most people. But there's also the bit where you might think, well, do you know what? Maybe I do need to do that to get ahead. Like you said, your friend, you know, they want a good performance, they want a good appraisal, so they're thinking, oh, what can I do that's extra? So there's different stuff going on. But yeah, I would say think about the conditioning element, but then also think like, what am I afraid would happen if I said no?
Yeah, because there's a lot that would come up there. It's like taking that pause, isn't it, and actually thinking, what's the worst that could happen, or what would happen, and how would that affect me? Would I then beat myself up that I should have done it? It's interesting.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, if someone is listening to this and struggling with confidence, obviously working with you is a great option. Is there anything that they can do immediately? Say they're really struggling to stay in the we've got something coming up at work and the internal dialogue, is there anything that any tips that you can give to sort of immediately help them in that situation?
Yeah, I think I would say just, and this might not be an immediate changer, but just be aware. Just try and just be a little aware. What am I saying to myself about this thing? So let's say somebody's going to do a presentation and they're feeling like, oh, some nerves, right? Normal, gonna happen. It's an exposing situation. Human brains don't like that very much. But what am I saying to myself about this thing? And if I ask myself, it might be, this is going to go wrong. They're not interested in what you have to say. Who do you even think you are to be getting up there? You're risking your entire job and reputation. Now, what am I saying to myself? Oh, well, it's kind of easy to see why I would be getting more and more nervous, because I'm essentially getting heckled, really badly heckled by my own brain before I go and do this. So I would just say that to people. What am I saying to myself about this? And just try and notice, because that in itself is going to be really powerful for you.
Yeah, that is really powerful, isn't it? I love the way you say you're getting heckled really badly by myself.
Yeah.
It's like when you actually stop and think about that, just as a concept, like, wow, that's great advice. And if people do want to reach out to you, where's the best place for people to connect with you?
If you're a worky type person, LinkedIn. I also do stuff on Instagram, but I put loads of stuff on LinkedIn. I have a podcast. Or you can come and join my community, and then I send out confidence coaching by email every week.
Amazing. And I'll put everything in the show notes. Thank you so much. I feel like I could just talk to you all day about this. Well, right.
Make everybody's ears bleed.
But you are joining us in the membership to run a masterclass, which I am so excited about. And there'll be more details on that soon. And we're going to go big, aren't we? We're gonna let the world know.
Absolutely.
That they can take control of their confidence. And you know what I love as well, what we talked about, it's not just about career. And this is what this is our message at Jobs for Women. It's about this work life. We, you know, yes, we want to do well at work. We want to be confident, but we also want to have a happy, balanced life so that it doesn't encroach into personal life. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and coming on the podcast.
You're very welcome.
I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Great interview with Anna. I really hope you enjoyed it. I think the work Anna does is necessary for every single person in the world. I do wish that we're taught more of these real vocational, real life skills at school. Confidence is something that I think we all need. Whatever you consider your level of confidence now, the self-doubt and how we speak to ourselves and the mindset piece is a huge piece that wherever you are in your career, wherever you are in your life, I think it's really important to do some inner work on that. And I'm really excited for Anna to run her free masterclass in the Jobs for Women membership. Really excited. So make sure that you sign up, head to the show notes, click on the link, drop your name and email address, and look out for the welcome emails. It's a free on-demand platform of yoga, mindfulness, meditation, careers advice, and of course, our expert monthly masterclasses. There is literally no reason why you should not be in there. We've also got a community element, which is coming really soon. So you can create your own profile. You can add your social media links. You can put a little bio in. So if you're looking for new jobs, and you can connect with other women like you. So do that as soon as you've stopped listening to this. That's it for another week. I, as always, have been just delighted that you're here. And please, 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 if you get time, don't forget to leave a review and hit the follow button, and take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon.